All right, we've now achieved quorum, so I am going to call the meeting to order since it's almost 7:01 p.m. Welcome everyone to the July 2nd, 2020 Historic Districts Commission meeting. I'm going to read some meeting protocols with me here, please. So I've called the meeting to order. The commission will be reviewing several public hearings, several continued. Do we have any continuances? Or are they all continuances? No, just one. We have continuances and new public hearings. We are not allowed to conduct much additional business at this time, although we have one discussion item at the end. In accordance with the Commonwealth of Mass Executive Order suspending certain provisions of open meeting law, we are conducting this meeting online. To ensure public access, the public may access this call through telephone and video conferencing. I think some have. Members of the public will have an opportunity to ask questions and provide public comment on applications and discussions following the petitioner's presentation and questions from the commission. To do so, please raise your hand in the participant function of the Zoom meeting platform. If you don't know how to do that, please ask. If you're calling in and cannot use Zoom, you may raise it by *9. Alternately, following the petitioner's presentation, the host, and in this case, our host is Heather Gill, I believe. Heather, you are our host. Will unmute microphones for comment. But if you make a comment, then please mute your microphone afterwards. I think people are probably all getting the hang of Zoom by now. And in order to preserve available bandwidth, video screens will be turned off by the host, with the exception of the commissioners, Heather Carey, and the current petitioner. Once the commission has acted on an application, the petitioner is free to leave the meeting, and we will not be sharing screens this evening. Once there are no more public comments, the chair will ask for a motion, I am the chair, to continue, approve, or approve with conditions, or disapprove. Second, and we'll roll call the vote. So that, thank you for listening to that. And with that, I will open the meeting with our first continuance, which is the Concord Public Works. There are modifications to the Cambridge Turnpike right-of-way to install guardrails and pedestrian rails. Now, are folks from CPW here?
I'm looking, there's so many names.
I know, I don't remember.
If you're from Concord DPW, you can unmute yourself, start your video, raise your hand.
I don't see them.
Let me see who's supposed to be here.
Unless Jane wants to sit in for the CPW. I'm just kidding, Jane. You shouldn't sit in for the CPW.
Ha 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 ha.
You'd be good at it. All right, well, I guess we could discuss it very briefly, or there's really no point if no one's here. I assume everyone went out to see the staked out areas on the commission. And we were ready to discuss it, so.
Yeah, I don't know if you just want to put it off until they show up, because they did email me and say Stefan was going to attend.
Okay, well, why don't we not waste people's time and continue on, and we'll come back to them if they show up. How about that?
Okay.
So do I need a motion to do that, or no? We'll just
skip over it for now and come back to it.
If they don't show up, we'll do an official continuance. Okay, so I think we'll get right into new public hearings because there's no restriction to start at 7:30. So our first applicant is Anita Rogers, 295 Barretts Mill Road, and this is to remove and install shutters. So, Miss Rogers, are you here? I don't see. Of course, there's one phone number there I don't recognize.
Yeah, Anita Rogers has worked with me, and she said that I should just come. My name's Renate Gundermann. I'm the owner of the property.
Renata, how are you?
Hi. Well, how are you?
We're just great. Would you just give us a quick overview, or we've got the application materials, and tell us what's going on here?
Sure. So we're just changing the shutter color. It's currently a hunter green. We're changing it to black. If you imagine kind of the Hawthorne Inn, that's our color scheme. And the bay window, I think it was an attachment, had these really skinny shutters on either side that were not period appropriate. And so we'll just be painting that bay area white.
Do you have this, excuse me, Heather, do you have this to put up on the screen, please? Thank you. There we go. Can you see this, Renata, or are you off video?
So we just went off and we're going to try and get back on here.
Looking at the application material, there are before and after photographs and a color swatch.
Yeah, for some reason, it cut us off of Zoom.
Oh,
that's okay. I can hear you, no problem.
Okay. All right. So I see the bay window is that changing from the gray to the white?
Yeah, I think there are, I'm not sure what you're looking at, but Anita, I believe, enclosed two pictures. One was with very skinny shutters, which were, you know, put up, I don't know when. And then the one below it is with the shutters off, painted white. And shutters placed on the window above. And on the side of the house, shutters placed on an office window, which is, I think, an attachment that you guys received as well from Anita, in a separate.
No, if that came, Heather would have to tell me. I don't see it on the site.
Right, it was a different submission that she sent, I believe, to Heather a couple days ago. And it's, as you face the house, it's on the left side. It's an office window that we would just put shutters on for consistency's sake with the rest of the house.
Okay, so if I'm reading this correctly, the application, so the top, I'm looking at the three photographs. The top photograph is existing. The second photograph shows the little thin shutters and the new shutters above. And then the third photograph shows the new shutters above and no shutters on the bay window, but the bay painted white. We can't see the picture of the office window, but I guess we can assume it is like the ones on the other side of the house.
Exactly. So the picture that has the shutters on the top window in the front of the house, the white bay area is the correct picture. And there would just be shutters similar to the ones on the side of the house on that one window on the other side of the house for consistency.
Okay, let me ask a quick question. Are the little thin shutters original to the house?
Anita said she highly doubted it. They don't look at it at all. And the other shutters have all been nailed in. It looks like it went under somebody just put them up there. I don't think they're period specific at all.
Bifold. I don't know about shutter history in particular. I don't remember if anyone.
Right, yeah, they're not bifolds. They're literally nailed in place. They're just these little skinny shutters.
Okay. Well, I think I get what the application is about. So let me go around, if I may, to the commissioners to see if they have any comments. May I do that?
Absolutely.
So I'm just going to go around the screen. Abigail, you are first on my rotation. Hello. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. I don't have any objection. I think the changes are in keeping with the period of the house. I think is appropriate. So I'm fine with the removal of the shutters on the bay window and the addition of the shutters to the office window and the upper window.
Okay, thank you. Senor Berisbeitia. You have to unmute yourself, sir.
Sorry, I have a quick question, which is that, are these shutters real shutters, or are these like the fake shutters that are attached to the wall and that had the blinds actually going in the wrong direction?
I'm sorry, which shutters are you speaking of?
I'm talking about the current shutters. Are the shutters, the current shutters?
The thin one.
Oh,
Yeah.
the existing shutters on the side of the house, they aren't uniform. One has that vertical bar on the second half of it. You know what I mean? That one is a vertical bar. So in order to, there's only one that has a vertical bar. So that one would be kept consistent with the others, which I would keep, and I would just, painting them black. But it would replace the one that's not consistent or uniform with the other ones.
Now, the question that I had was whether these shutters are actually working shutters or decorative shutters.
It looks like they're decorative. Yeah, they're nailed in place. They don't look like they were working. They certainly aren't working now because they're nailed in. So does that help?
Well, from a historical perspective, the nail shutters are not particularly good, but I don't have any objection to this particular modification because I think it's going to be consistent with the rest of the house. But it will be appropriate for the applicant to consider in the future either to remove all the shutters or to make them making them real shutters. But of course, that's not what we're not deciding. So I agree with the current plan.
Okay, thank you, Luis. I appreciate it. I'm just going around the horn. Nia, how are you in terms of comments on this?
I have no objection to any of the proposed changes. My only question I have is, I believe the application said that the shutters were going to be painted a gloss black, and help me, other commissioners, I thought we normally would prefer not to have gloss.
Yeah, the guidelines do specify that we don't do a high gloss exterior finish on doors, trims, or shutters.
Okay.
Okay.
So maybe we do a satin or something flatter than gloss.
Sure, no problem.
Please.
Thank
Yep.
you.
No problem.
Thank you.
Linda, nice to see you. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Any thoughts or comments on this application?
No, I like all the changes they're recommending. I think it's a nice change to the house. I have no objections at all.
All right, thank you. And Katharine, any thoughts?
I also have no objections. I think it's going to be a nice change as well.
All right, and I have no comments. So I think there are no further comments from commissioners or no further commissioners to comment. So I'm going to open it up to public comment. Is there any public comment on the application for 295 Barrett's Mill Road to remove and install shutters as proposed? I hear crickets and see tumbleweeds. So whoever's going to make the motion has to unmute.
Sorry, Peter, point of order. Which commissioners will be voting this evening since we have...
Point. I think we have five full commissioners. Nia,
No.
okay.
No.
Louisa, and Abigail, I think, would be the four other than me.
Yeah.
Katharine, you don't mind?
I don't mind.
Okay. You can vote anyway. You just don't technically, push us over the edge.
Okay, I move that we approve the application for 295 Barrett's Mill Road to remove and install shutters with the understanding that the paint on the shutters will not be high gloss, be more of a satin or flat finish.
All right.
I second.
The second, all in favor. I'm just going to go around the horn. Nia? Aye. Abigail?
Aye.
Aye. Luis?
Aye.
Melinda, are you
Oh, sorry.
and Katharine?
Aye.
All right, we are unanimous. You're approved, and I do so declare, as our moderator would say.
Great. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you. Our next applicant.
You has showed up.
Oh,
I don't know if you want to backtrack back to that application.
let's do that because it should be relatively straightforward. So who is speaking for the CPW? Pardon us all for jumping backwards a minute here.
Steve Ducran.
Steve, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I don't know if you can see me. Thank you for taking our application.
Yes. All right. So I think if you could run through, I don't know if, I don't think we need to run through all the material, but maybe Heather, if you would put up the photos.
Yeah.
I think there were some site photos, or at least one of the photos. Now, did the commissioners all have a chance to look at the staked out areas? Maybe just wave at me if you did.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so everybody looked. All right, and I think we're pretty clear on what this is. There's a little piece of Corten guardrail and then a pedestrian rail. I'm gonna just ask the commissioners quickly, do we need this to be presented or are we ready to discuss it? I don't think we need a formal presentation. I think we've seen where it is. So let me just go around. I think we'll try to do this as quickly as we can. I'm gonna go in order again. Nia, any thoughts?
No, I have no problem with the application as submitted.
Okay, Abigail?
I have no issue with the application as submitted.
Okay, Luis?
I looked at the site and I looked at the site in the context of the other side of the road or the other end of the road near where there's a bridge by the
farm.
By the farm, exactly. And over there, they have built a very attractive fence or protector that looks actually quite nice. The only objection that I have against the proposed plan is that, you know, this is just a highway guardrail, which it's perfectly fine for its purpose. But if they are able to put something that it's aesthetically more pleasing, that would be a much better option. And it seems that that's the case because in the area around the bridge, such a treatment does exist. And I believe that it would be a much nicer, from an aesthetical standpoint, if that's built that way. Of course, historically, it doesn't make any difference.
I'm not sure I'm familiar with that, that part of the street as much as I should be. You don't happen to have a photograph?
No, I don't take a photograph.
I don't know if we can see that like on Google Magic Earth or something. Okay, let's just, if I may, I'm just going to say thank you for that comment. Let me move on to Melinda. We'll see if we can pull up that a picture of that other guardrail.
Hold on. Yeah, so I unfortunately didn't see that other guardrail. So the ones that I was looking at seemed, I'm sorry, hold on, there's a dog barking.
That is a voting dog.
It's my dog. So I would like to see the picture of the other guardrail, quite honestly, to compare. I drove by there. I somehow missed the other existing one, and I'd like to see it.
Yeah, I don't think we can drive by the other one, right? Isn't it?
No, yeah. Sorry, we can. You just have to drive by the farm, and then you will see it there. It's at the beginning of the bridge.
Okay.
It's not on Google Maps or Google Street View because it hasn't been updated.
When you say the farm, do you mean the nursery?
The nursery, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Let me just thank you, Melinda. Katharine, any thoughts?
I would be curious and interested to see what Luis is referring to in terms of the style of the other rail, but otherwise I don't inherently have any objections to the application as proposed.
All right, so it's a bit of a dilemma here because I don't think some of us know, Luis, I don't think we've seen this other design. Let me ask Steve, if I may. Can I ask you a question? Is this work, is there any sort of safety hazard at the moment because these rails are not up yet?
So the bridge isn't open because all the rails are not in place. So we can pass vehicles on the bridge. The guardrail that's being proposed is the same style that was shown in the photograph.
Right.
Clear. The bridge itself will have a modified rail because it's going to the bridge. You don't typically put that on a roadside. Guardrails are made for breakaway if it gets hit by a vehicle, it's supposed to break away so that you don't have any fatalities occurring. Bridge rails are made made stiffer so that they can withstand the impact. So the bridge rail itself will not be implemented as a typical roadside guardrail. A lot of this design was done, in the years gone by, prior to many of us in public works being in our positions. So the decision making was made back then. The only thing that we changed in recent time was the posts themselves. Originally, they were supposed to be wood posts. We're going with the steel posts, which is a lot more durable. Wood posts themselves, they have chemicals in them, and they can leach into the groundwater. The steel posts, we've changed them to match the rail itself. The rail is the brown rail, the rust type rail, which is called cotton steel. So the steel posts are of the same color. So I don't know if I'm helping with this explanation.
So let me ask one more clarifying question. So the rail Luis is talking about is actually a third type of rail. It's a bridge rail.
Yes, it's a modified guardrail just for the bridge area.
Gotcha. Okay, so since Luis, it's a different kind of.
It's the same post, the same steel post you'd see, and the beam itself is doubled up. It's called approach rail. I believe that's the term they use, the technical term.
So it's not a breakaway rail.
No, it's not breakaway because it has to be stiffer.
Okay. Well, it sounds like that one.
No, I don't know if Louis is talking about the pedestrian rail, which is a wooden rail on the back side of the sidewalk.
I don't know.
Did you refer to that?
What I saw was a wooden rail that was aesthetically much more pleasing than the regular highway divided that was being proposed. So I thought that maybe some arrangement or compromise could be made by which the functionality remains in terms of the resistance to impact and so forth, but the aesthetic aspect of it can be modified such that it's more aesthetically pleasing, because that rail as it is just a highway rail.
Okay, now I understand what he's saying. So what Louis is talking about is so when you get onto the bridge area, you have the sidewalk. On the front side of the sidewalk, you have the guardrail to separate the vehicles from the pedestrians. And on the back side of the sidewalk, you have a pedestrian rail that runs for a long distance made out of wood. That rail itself will not pass the highway test for crashworthiness. It's not strong enough. You would see some wood rails in some places implemented for lower speeds. The design speed of that highway is actually 45 miles an hour. You don't expect people to travel that far, but you design it such that if someone should be traveling at that speed, which commonly happens, the person will be protected. The vehicle will be protected. The driver of the vehicle will be protected. Wooden rails you don't find wooden rails for that application at that high speed.
Well, I certainly am not proposing that it be changed for a wooden rail. I'm just saying that from an aesthetical standpoint, it could be, the metal rail could be as it is, but maybe the DPW could consider some type of a wood fence in order to conceal this very industrial looking rail. That's all I am proposing.
Okay. Well,
I can add, if I may, when the beam is first installed, it's very metal looking, but with time, and it doesn't take long, it gets that rust look, and it's entirely covered in rust, and it's brown, and it kind of disappears in the landscape. So maybe what you see there, the fresh rail is not that pleasing, but give it a couple of months with some rain, it will just become brown like the picture showed before.
And let me ask the clarification, that is the sidewalk on the other side of the street?
The sidewalk is on the, that would be the south side of the street.
It's across the street from where the Core 10 rail is going, right? So you're never really up next to it.
That's correct. Well, the piece of rail that you're considering is not against the sidewalk.
So, and there is other Core 10 guardrail in town up by, I've seen it in a couple different places.
Yeah, the photograph that showed earlier, actually that's at the end of Cambridge Turnpike where it meets Route 2.
Yeah, so it's up at the end of the street. Well, Luis, what do you think? Are you ready to fall on your sword for this one, or?
No. I certainly have no objection to the change as proposed. I'm just bringing forward the idea that it could be better. But if that entails, a long delay or something like that, then it's not a problem.
Okay, thank you. I do. My sense is, and correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, that you would have to somehow re-engineer, or it would be a second front of the guardrail. That seems to be almost drawing more attention to it than it warrants. And it's a relatively short run here. We're not. I mean, I think if this were running hundreds of yards, I also would be scratching my head a little bit. But it's just in front of this small area. So I guess my recommendation, Luis, is that we let this one be as the application shows it.
I entirely agree.
Okay, did I let everyone else comment, by the way? I think I did. All right, are there other thoughts from the commission, or can I open it up to public comment? Why don't I go ahead and open it up to public comment? So this is public comment on the Concord Public Works Cambridge Turnpike right away guardrail and the two different guardrail applications. So is there any comment from the public on this application? All right, seeing none, I would look for a motion, please.
I move that we approve the application for Cambridge Turnpike, Concord Public Works, Cambridge Turnpike right-of-way to install guardrail and pedestrian rail as submitted.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Nia?
Aye.
Abigail?
Aye.
Luis?
Aye.
Melinda?
Aye.
And Catherine?
Aye.
And I am an aye as well, unanimous. Steve, thank you very much. Good luck, and thank you for your comments. Much appreciated.
And thank you for consideration. We appreciate your help with this.
Thank you again, Stephen. Good luck getting out there in the heat. All right, so 252 Main Street is our next application. This is to call a basketball hoop. And Mr. Padar is Andrew?
Well, it's actually Mrs. Darrell.
Sorry. Hello. I didn't see you.
Hi.
Too many little Hollywood squares. Welcome.
Thank you.
All right. So, Heather, is it easy to put this up on the screen just so everybody can see it? There's the site. Very good. Basketball hoop. And this is the Unit A parking area. So, is there a photograph of the area? I can't say. There are existing conditions photos.
Let me see.
Okay, so it's kind of far back from the road.
I can pull it up on Google Street View if you give me a second.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Sorry, we just want to see if we can see a picture of the house from the street.
Yep, that's good.
Is this for you or someone else in the house to play basketball?
Of course, for me. No, it's for our 8-year-old son.
Aha. Okay, so here we're looking straight back at the site and we're talking about something kind of near the Cooper Mini. Is that what?
Yeah. Yep, that's exactly where it is. Yeah.
Great.
And just to let you know that we've now had that area all landscaped, so there'll be bushes and things when they grow bigger along the where the sidewalk is, so it will kind of screen that area a bit as well.
Okay. Okay, I think commissioners all see where we're talking about, kind of right in front of the Cooper Mini. It's a black post. You're looking at the hoop, black post with a translucent backboard. Now it's set in concrete, correct? It's in a post in the ground.
Yeah.
I think we see what the application is all about. So let me see if we have comments from the commission. Go around the horn again. Nia, any thoughts?
You're picking on me, Peter.
Sorry, I'll make you go last next time.
Okay, well, to state the obvious, there's nothing historically appropriate about a basketball hoop, nor is it very aesthetically attractive. However, I think these sort of things are pretty widespread in town. I think in the current environment, anything we can do to entertain your 8-year-old, I think is a good idea. And I agree that there are very extensive new plantings that have just been installed that will help to soften the view, and the actual basketball hoop is quite a distance from the road. So I have no problem.
Thank you. Abigail?
So I agree with Nia. You know, this could be, I appreciate you making an application for this, because you could have purchased a portable hoop that we wouldn't have any purview over, that would have a larger base and would be kind of more obtrusive. And that technically wouldn't fall under our purview. And you've chosen what is a more permanent, but I think less obtrusive and obvious basketball hoop, which I think will be slightly less kind of visually, I don't know what the word is I'm looking for. I think it's fine. I think, as you said, the landscaping that's gone in the last, 2 weeks is extensive. I would ask that it maybe a condition of the application is that the landscaping be maintained to screen the basketball hoop to the greatest extent possible. But as Nia said, you know, in these times, we're going to have to start to consider more home recreation options for families that live in the district as we go in and out of closures of public spaces. So I think it's something that, you know, we oftentimes talk about appropriate, and as the times change, what's appropriate changes. And I think that this is kind of, it will blend as much as they can. I think the landscaping will conceal it to some extent. And so in this particular instance, in this location, in this application, I don't object to it.
Thank you. Well said. I appreciate your comments. Luis?
I agree with Nia and Abigail 100%.
All right. That was easy. Melinda?
I agree. I think it's far enough back that honestly, you'd have to be looking pretty closely to really see it as you're driving by.
Agreed. Thank you. Katharine?
Agreed all the way around. The distance from the street and the planned screening of the foliage, I think it's going to be fine.
Agreed. And I've got to say ditto, and I'm going to just reinforce that we appreciate you coming with an application, because you know, it's a standard of care about the historic district, which I appreciate. All right, so seeing no further commissioners to comment, I'm going to open it up to public comment. So this is any public comment on the basketball hoop application, pardon me, for 252 Main Street. Is there any comment from the gallery? I see none. So I'd need a motion.
I move that we approve the application for 252 Main Street to install a basketball hoop as submitted, with the understanding that the landscaping along the street be maintained to screen the hoop.
Second.
All right, motion has been moved and seconded. All in favor, Nia,
Aye.
Abigail,
Aye.
Luis,
Aye.
Melinda,
Aye.
and Catherine.
Aye.
And I'm affirmative. We're good to go, and I do declare. So thank you for the application and good luck with that NBA career.
Thank you. And thanks for the approval.
All right, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Moving right along, 375 Lexington Road. This is for Orchard House to replace the driveway, which includes removal of concrete pavers.
One interruption. I will recuse myself from this discussion because I am a corporator of the Orchard House as well as an abutter.
Okay, thank you, Luis. And so Catherine, you'll be our fifth vote here.
Okay.
All right, so are folks from the Orchard House here?
I do see Jan. If Jan wants to unmute.
And Jan, can you unmute?
And Jay may also be.
I don't know if it worked. Can you hear me?
There you go.
Yes.
We can see now.
Oh, good. For some reason, my whole screen just disappeared, but at least you can hear me, so that's good.
It's special effects for sound. All right, so Heather, would you mind putting up the material on the screen just so we can see it? So this is an application, Jan, I see, to replace the driveway, which comes off of Lexington Road. I think we can see various condition photographs. It looks like it's kind of crumbling. There are some concrete pavers. Where are the concrete pavers?
Right there.
They're right along Lexington Road,
Okay.
beginning of the driveway.
And this would be replacing it with asphalt.
Right.
And is there a specification on the asphalt in the application?
You mean the kind of asphalt?
Yes, I'm wondering if there's a.
I didn't know we had choices. I'm happy to go with whatever is. All the neighbors have asphalt driveways, so I can inquire of them what kind. The company that will do the work has done many of the driveways. They also do highway paving. So, you know, I didn't know there were many choices for asphalt.
Well, I think the reason I'm asking is that the bottom part of the driveway is a lighter color, and there are different. I think one of the product names is chip seal, where the aggregate is actually a lighter color. It's not.
What we had in mind was the asphalt that you see. If you look at any of the other driveways on Lexington Road, they're just asphalt. They're not lighter. They're not chip seal. They're just asphalt, and that's what we wanted to go with.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. I think I understand the application, so I'm going to ask for comment. I'll go in reverse order this time, Nia, not to pick on you. So, Catherine, may I pick on you first for comment?
I think I would be. Can anyone hear me? I just don't know if the appearance of the chip seal might be a little softer and lighter. I mean, I understand looking towards a consistency within the area. So the asphalt might be a fine solution. But I guess I don't know enough about the aesthetic differences between the asphalt and the chip seal, and perhaps the chip seal, if it's lighter and maybe fades to a little bit more of a naturalistic look, might be better. But that's my only comment.
Okay, thank you. Melinda?
I think going with the what she's put before us would be fine. I don't know what the difference in cost is between chip seal and the regular asphalt. If there were not a big cost differential, I think that the chip seal probably would be a nicer look. But if the money's not in the budget, she needs a new driveway, that's for sure. I would be okay with the asphalt.
All right, thank you. Abigail.
Well, it seems to me that other than the removal of the concrete, this is really a replacement in kind. It's an asphalt driveway being replaced by an asphalt driveway. We all hate asphalt driveways, but they're there and they're a reality of life. And so I don't know. Yeah, I really see this as essentially a replacement in kind. So although I don't like the appearance of it, I don't like the appearance of it next to a historically prominent property. I see this as essentially a repair and replacement.
All right, thank you. And Mia.
Like everybody else, I'm not a fan of asphalt, but I am fine with it in this context.
All right, and I have no further comments. So I think all the commissioners who have not recused themselves have commented. So I'm going to open it up to public comment. Is there any public comment on the request by the Orchard House, 375 Lexington Road, to replace the asphalt driveway as presented? I'm looking around. I see a whole lot of silence. So I am looking for.
I'd be happy to make a motion. I just want to ask other commissioners, would they be comfortable if I put in the motion that the applicant can choose asphalt or chip seal at their discretion? Because that would give the applicant an opportunity to investigate chip seal, and if they liked it and it was cost effective, they could consider it.
That amendment's fine with me. Anybody have any objections?
No.
No, I think they would just need to submit a sample of the final chip seal
If it were to.
color and product for administrative review by Heather.
Okay. So there's a motion on the floor. I need a second.
One second.
Right. And all in favor, Katharine,
Aye.
Linda,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Mia,
Aye.
and I'm an affirmative as well. So you are approved. Jan, thank you for the application and good luck with that repaving project.
Thank all of you.
You're welcome. All right, moving right along. So 454 Monument withdrew, correct, Heather?
Yes, so they withdrew. I did ask them to submit the withdrawal form, but I have not received that yet. But the roof, we, through communications with them, discovered it's going to be a replacement in kind. The paint is all just the same color. And they decided that the porch changes, they're going to wait until next spring to do. So they'll reapply at that point.
Okay. Do we know if those awnings were original, by the way, in that house? I just, it's a question that
You'll know.
they're lovely, but okay. So thank you. Do we need a motion on that or no? We just.
Yes.
Yes. I mean, technically we haven't, we received an email requesting the withdrawal. So we do need a motion to accept the withdrawal.
I move that we approve the withdrawal of the application for 454 Monument Street without prejudice.
Second.
All right. And Katharine, I'm going to have Lou come back into voting ship here. So all in favor, Nia?
Aye.
You made the motion. Abigail?
Aye.
Luis?
Aye.
Linda?
Aye.
Katharine?
Aye.
And I as well. Okay, thank you very much. The application has been withdrawn. So our next project, moving right along, is 20 Bow Street. The Winers, forgive me if I'm not pronouncing your name correctly. This is an application to replace an existing mudroom and porch retaining wall, steps, pathway, garage door, foundation, to install garage roof overhang, field stove veneer, and other site improvements. So we have the material. I think, Heather, can you put that up on the screen? And I'm not sure who's presenting from the client side. Could you let us know? I see Sarah.
Yeah, hi, this is David and Sarah. Greg Legault and David Fisher are our consultants and our architects, so they'll be presenting. If I could just do a brief intro. We're really excited to be before the commission. We've been in the house for a little over 10 years. We understand that the existing retaining wall is not compliant. The prior owners constructed it, I believe, without the approval of the commission. We're now in a position to try to make it compliant and hopefully make it look much nicer. The front walk isn't very safe. It's like an ice skating rink in the winter. You just slide right down. So we're also trying to fix that as well. And then the mud room, which Greg will get into detail on, it's sort of like this little add-on that doesn't have any heat. It's very cold in the winter. Ice just stays in there. We're just trying to also make that much nicer. But I'll let Greg and David get into the particulars.
Hi, I'm Greg Legault. I'm the architect, and as David said, you know, the biggest impact of the project is the retaining walls and landscape work. The mudroom was a nice sort of while you're at it, I think, to really fix the whole entry sequence.
Sorry, I just want to interrupt for a sec. Would you like us to run through the presentation material in any particular order?
Yeah, if you have drawings, it might be easier to.
Or if you're driving, I think we could just go through the material.
Yeah, you could just kind of scroll through and I can just explain. So that is the existing mudroom bump out with an existing porch that has no overhang. You can scroll down that's the existing elevation. The side elevations of the existing. So the proposed is making the mudroom slightly larger to get a little bit more storage in the closet, a little bit more space for taking boots off, and then also adding a porch to it so that you know, when people come over, you don't have to wait in the rain while people come to answer the door, and it, I think, helps dress it up much more in keeping with the rest of the porches along the street. A lot of the houses on the street have porches. We also wanted to go with because it's a shallow slope, so we could stay away from the windows above. We're proposing a standing seam metal roof. It's really too shallow of a slope to do shingles. And I think you really don't see the roof much at all from the street because you're so low. It's up about 20 feet almost from street level. We're also proposing to put stone veneer on the house to cover up to match with the new stone retaining walls, but also to cover up the exposed concrete foundation and block foundation. And we added a little roof over the garage door and change out the existing garage door with a new stained garage door, carriage door.
Okay. And then there's some landscape.
Yeah, there's.
Greg, let me say, this is David. I can just interrupt. Could you let in David Fisher, Fisher Design? He's the landscape architect. He may, if he's not unmuted already, I'm not sure. I can't tell.
I'm unmuted.
Okay, great. Sorry about that. Thanks, David.
There you are, David.
Okay.
All right. I think if David, do you want to walk us through the landscape drawing?
Yes.
if you would.
Yes.
Vicky?
Okay, start my video. There we go. Okay. What we're proposing to do is essentially replace all of the landscape structures and materials on site. So the existing retaining walls, which are segmental retaining wall material, concrete block, will come out. The driveway will come out. The stone wall parallel to Bow Street will be removed. And then we will replace the retaining walls with a Boston Blend retaining wall. It's a product from Stoneyard out in Littleton. And that we want to use because it can be matched for a veneer stone. And all of the retaining walls will be replaced. We are expanding the driveway a little bit and making the new area granite block, one for appearance and two for drainage concerns. And then there will be an apron that will go across the bottom of the driveway. The walkway that comes up from the driveway to the house will be brick with granite steps, and that will bring people up to the new front porch. We have applied and received a notice of intent from the Conservation Commission, excuse me, the NRC. So we thought we'd get that out of the way before, make sure that it was okay with them before we came to you. We're using native plant materials, and when all is said and done, this project will look very similar to what's there with the replacement of, I think, more appropriate materials.
All right, nicely done, thank you. I think the only other document we haven't looked at, Heather, is the one that's titled Materials, which I think really just describes some of the other things, like there's some pavers, there's a mailbox. So there are a number of, I think we are going to want a site visit. I mean, I know I am just, it's a very nice package, and it looks like a nice little design. So I think we just want to put it in context. So we'll want to, I think we can't really meet as a group on site yet, but we could, if we could come by at different times before our next meeting, which is in 2 weeks, correct? What's today? The 2nd, it would be the 16th.
So Peter,
Yes.
You are allowed to meet as a group on site now, as long as everyone is wearing masks and you stay 6 feet apart, or you can continue to just do the individual site visits as you've been doing.
Does the owner have to provide donuts?
No.
Oh, man. They could have
let us know. We can provide whatever you need.
got into the regulation, man. Okay, so we could meet as a group. All right, so I think I've got a general idea of what's going on here. But I think we would just need to have a site visit. Unless, let me just go around real quick and see if anybody has any comments. Thank you all for the presentation. Let's see, Katharine, any particular comments before we go for a site visit?
I agree. I just think the site visit is a great idea. I think we need to do that.
Okay, Melinda, any comments? You're muted there, Melinda. Okay. There you are.
I agree with that.
Okay, Luis, you're muted too. There you go. Now you're here. You're okay? Oh, we can't hear you.
I agree.
There you are. Okay.
I agree. A site visit's appropriate. I would disagree with a group site visit and would prefer the individuals. Just, I'll be the Debbie Downer who doesn't want to meet in a group yet. So.
Okay, and Nia?
I'm looking forward to the site visit. I did have just a couple things that maybe could be submitted before the next meeting, unless I've missed them somewhere in the application. The actual garage door spec for that, please. A question on the light, the lamp post the photograph of the Walpole post had a lantern. Is that the one you intend to use, or was that just, you know, from the photograph and you would like to use a different lantern? If you could also submit the actual paint colors, I appreciate medium gray, whatever is not very threatening, but it would be helpful to us if you submitted the actual chips. That would be great. And I did have a question on the standing seam roof. Is that going to have any kind of, I will use the wrong terminology, I'm sure, but any kind of bars or whatever for, you know, preventing snow from landing on people's heads, that kind of thing?
No,
if you would just let us know on that, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, and then my only comment is these are very nice SketchUp model views. If it's possible to do an existing as well as the proposed, these are really good views for getting an idea of sort of the scale, the mass. So if it's possible to, even just for one of the views, to do an existing against the proposed,
sure,
super helpful. All right, so if we're going to do a site visit, do we need to open it up to public comment, Heather? Or yes, okay. So is there any public comment on the application for 20 Bow Street? I'm looking around, I don't see any. So I will look for a motion from the commission.
I move that we continue the application for 20 Bow Street till our next meeting on July 16th. Is that correct, Heather?
Yes.
July 16th at 7 p.m.
And that we conduct a site visit.
Oh, and in the meantime, we do a site visit.
Oh, sorry to interrupt. I'm asking the client group, is that okay that morning, the 16th, to have us stop by? It sounds like Abigail would like to stop by alone, which is fine.
So
I'll be with, I will also, I'm afraid, fall into Abigail's camp.
Maybe if you could give us a window of.
we will be out of town, so come by whenever. I don't think come by whenever you want. Someone will be house sitting our dog, but otherwise just come by whenever you want.
All right. Well, maybe would it be okay just to notify there are going to be people
Absolutely.
that morning,
Absolutely.
probably to look around. And
Yes, we'll let them know.
Peter,
Yes.
Peter, would it be possible to have them stake the driveway bump out that they're going to put where the parked car, additional space for the parked car?
I'm just going to ask David.
Yeah, I can get that. I've got a trusty can of orange spray paint.
Perfect.
I can do that for you.
Great.
Always have one in my car.
Okay.
Thank you.
I interrupted your motion, Mia. So we're continuing till the 16th with the site visit that morning. Let's say starting at 8 o'clock. I don't know that we need to be there.
So I need to know whether or not you're doing a group site visit or you're all just doing individual site visits, because I need to know whether to post a notice for it. Do we want to just leave it? Everyone will stop by.
Visually, yeah. They're safer that way. We're not going to talk to each other, and just please go by between 8 and I guess 10 or something. Would between 8 and 10 work for everybody on the commission?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So
Can I just ask one question? When do you need the bump out marked? Is that before the 16th, like the day before, or a week before?
Oh, just the day before.
Okay.
I think we won't.
Okay.
That day.
Thank you.
All right, Nia, I completely trashed your motion there. Sorry.
Do you want me to do it again?
Maybe just pick it up where I left the tattered pieces on the floor.
Okay. I move that we continue the application for 20 Bow Street to our next meeting on July 16 at 7 p.m. With a site visit that morning. Is that all right, Heather, or does it have to be said?
Second.
The site visit will be individuals, not.
With individual site visits that morning.
Is that okay, Abigail? Second.
Yep. Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Melinda.
Aye.
Luis.
Aye.
Abigail.
Aye.
Nia.
Aye.
And I'm an aye too. So thank you all. It's a nice application. We'll see some of you on the 16th. and then we'll meet this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right, thank you, folks. All right, and I think if I'm looking at the applications correctly, our last application, am I right, Heather, here is 129 Street, the library. Now, this is an amendment to an existing certificate, the certificate which has been approved to demolish portions of the existing building, construct the single-story addition to the Haywood Benjamin House and the library to renovate existing buildings and make numerous site improvements. So this discussion this evening is only on the amendment, not on the main application that's been approved. It's put to bed. That's a whole separate, we're not going to take any discussion on that tonight. So I think what I'm looking for is the library team to, we've seen the material, but if you wouldn't mind walking us through what the amendment requests are, that would be terrific. And my understanding is, pardon me, this is a slight change of footprint in the story craft room and some window changes. Some windows at the recessed areas on the west facade, which have been slightly changed. Replacement windows in the Haywood Benjamin house. I don't know what they were before. And then modifying the site plan regarding accessible parking. So if I may ask the team to present the material, that would be super helpful.
Sure, Peter. Jeff Adams here. I'll start with a brief introduction. Am I unmuted, Heather?
You are unmuted, yes.
Great. Okay, good evening, everyone. Tonight with me, at least virtually, is Corporation President Sherry Litwack, Stu Roberts, and Michael Bellefue of Johnson Roberts Architects, landscape architect Kim Ahern, and civil engineer Chris Garcia. We're also joined by our counsel, Mark Bobrowski, and most of the library trustees. Many of you have heard that the HDC and ZBA approvals were appealed. Since last fall, we've had discussions about the concerns identified in that appeal, and we've reached a settlement agreeable to the library and to the plaintiffs. During those discussions, we agreed that we may want to revise 4 architectural details, and we are here tonight to ask you to consider the following 4 amendments to the existing certificate of appropriateness. Heather, can Michael share his screen to bring up the first slide?
Yes, just wondering, does he have the ability to screen share, or should we make him a co-host?
If I'm unmuted, Heather, let me see if I can try it and see if that works, if that's okay.
Okay.
While Michael's doing that, he'll be bringing up the first slide. See if we can go to the next one, Michael. So the 4 amendments, I'll just offer a brief review. The first is reconfiguration of the story craft room to move it between 3 and 4 feet further from the side property line. The room is basically the same size. The second amendment is alterations to 2 sets of windows on the west elevation. These are in alcoves, not really visible from Main Street. The changes relate to adding mullions to those large pane windows that will make them similar to the other windows on that side of the building. The third is replacement of the windows in the existing Haywood Benjamin house. We reviewed the energy efficiency of the existing building with members of the green team and realized that the windows are really the weak link. They were installed by the previous owner during a renovation and are inexpensive single pane windows. The divided light proposed configurations of the new SDL windows will match the existing windows. And finally, there is some support in the community for on-site accessible parking, which may be safer. So we'd like to consider that design. And with that, I'll turn it over to Michael to review the submittals in more detail. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Jeff, and thanks everyone for having us here again. It's nice to see everyone, even virtually. So I'll skip right ahead and let me see if this is, let me see here. Sorry, ran into a little issue. All right. Is the screen sharing?
Yeah, that's working.
Okay. So this is, I'll start off by just showing what we've got. This is what we had before. This is the previously approved, and I'll go through these one by one with the items. So this is looking at the story craft room reconfiguration. So I figured the easiest thing is just start by looking at what was previously approved here, which is, this is looking from the garden back at the children's library, and off to the left is the previously approved story craft room. And this is the new proposal. Everything to the right of the story craft room is exactly the same as it was. The change to the story craft room is a slightly different footprint. It's the same overall square footage. The difference is that we've worked to pull it away from the west property line and this does a couple things. One is that it gives us a little more space between some existing trees that will remain and the new footprint, and it also does a little bit of a better job of screening the addition, the glass portion of the children's library from the southwest. But largely it's the same window on this side, same siding, same trim, same roof materials. Again, this is looking from the southwest corner, looking back at the library. This is the previously approved story craft room to the left, and what we're proposing now. So it's, again, the window you'll see, if I just go back, the large window with the 4 pieces that's facing the garden is the same in the previous application as it is here. And one thing that we've done is we've simplified the rest of the windows. We've gotten rid of the smaller windows on the rest of the story craft room and just done this small bay window that is really the same size as the one facing the garden, but without the transoms. So skipping ahead, this is the garden side elevation. The elevation on the top is what was previously approved. The one on the bottom is showing the proposed change, and it's a little hard to see in this view, but the area that's changed is outlined in red. So it's just that story craft room again. I'll skip ahead and show you. This is the floor plan, the ground floor plan. The area that is changed, that's been changed here, is in the very top right. And again, it's a little hard to see here, but it's outlined in red there. So you may recall it was L-shaped before and jutted out a little bit more to the right in this view. And it's been reconfigured to be more of a rectangle with a little bit of a bay window. So that's a quick summary of the changes to the story craft room. Oh, I'm sorry, here's the roof plan as well. So again, the only area that's changed is that same area in the top right. So skipping ahead to the next item, trying to go through this quickly and then we'll turn it over to the commission for questions. But skipping ahead to the next item here is the windows on the west side of the addition. So we're showing at the top elevation here is what was previously approved. So this is these, I don't know if you can see the cursor, but these 2 recessed areas that have a lot of glass. And in what we're proposing for changes are these areas that are outlined in red below. Also outlined in red here is the change to the story craft room that you can see, which was up here before. So these windows will now, the details will be very similar to the details that are over on the corridor, the new corridor side that connects the house to the addition on the opposite side. So simulated divided light windows with wood panels below. This is in the application package that you have, but just the overall, looking at all the elevations. So you can see here, and I'm sorry, I'm assuming you can see the cursor. I'm circling the story craft room here, here as well, and then the changes to the windows here. I'll skip ahead. I don't actually have any slides here to show the window replacement, but the idea, if we look at, I can just stick on this elevation here, the windows that will be replaced are all these existing windows at the existing house. And they're a little hard to see here, but in the application package, you'll see those are also outlined in red. And what we're planning to do there, or excuse me, what we're proposing to do there is to replace the sashes with new Marvin wood sashes. This will let us upgrade the windows so that they'll be more energy efficient, double pane windows without needing to replace or touch the exterior casings or trim. So the idea here is that all the historic casing, trim, shutters, everything on the exterior will remain in place, and we're really just replacing the sashes from the inside. And the windows that are there now, all these windows that are proposed to be replaced are mostly single pane. There's a few double pane, but they're mostly single pane windows from a range of manufacturers. They're all replacement windows from I think 1985 to about 2002. So there's no historic sashes, and they're in addition to being energy inefficient, they're difficult to operate and not very attractive. And then skipping ahead to the parking here, this is what we had that was previously approved. This is the view from Main Street. And what we're looking to do is to add 3 handicap accessible parking spaces. Now, this is a little different than what we had initially proposed, where we had 3 accessible parking spaces and a space for the library van. We've eliminated the space for the library van, and what that's allowed us to do is to add some more screening landscaping space between the proposed parking area and the street. So that's what we're seeing here. And again, here's another view of what was previously approved and what we're proposing. So the benefits to this and the reason that we're seeking the parking here is, again, we can get 3 on-space accessible spaces as opposed to 2 on-street spaces. And the other big change is that the library can, designate these spaces for library patrons, whereas on the street, while they're a great public amenity, they're available to anyone for any use. So this is something that would really benefit users of the library. And this is the previously approved landscape plan. So again, if you can see my cursor, this is the story craft room as it was before with the L-shaped configuration. And this is where there was a garden out front and the 2 on-street parking spaces. And these are the changes that we're proposing. The reconfigured story craft room, you can even see a little bit of the outline of what was previously approved. So we're pulling it in here and changing some of the screening in this area of the story craft room. And then the big landscape change here, obviously, is the on-site parking and adding a bit of screening between the parking lot and the street, and then some other associated landscape changes, but trying to keep that as much the same as we can. And that's it. So with that, I'll turn it over to back over to the HDC, to the commission members.
All right, thank you. All right, so we have essentially 4 items. I'm just thinking out loud here as your fearless leader. I think we're going to need a site visit here. That's a rather dramatic change to the landscape plan, if nothing else. But let me go around and see what commissioners are thinking. Nia, let me pick on you first this time, if I may.
Okay, I'll try and remember all the elements here. The Storycraft area, I think I understand the reasons for the redesign. I think the redesign is less appealing than the original design, but I think the southwest view is probably one of the least looked at by the public. So I'm fine with that. I'm fine with the changes to the windows along I think it's the west side. I'm fine with the replacement windows in the Haywood Betchman house. I'm really struggling with the new parking area. I totally appreciate the appeal of having on-site handicap parking. But if you go back to our many deliberations, I think Kim had worked very hard to come up with a design for that area that screened the Link building. And I personally felt that the Link building was one of the most problematic aspects of the entire design. And that's why we wanted more screening. And that's when Kim came up with the circle and the benches and the 5 redbud trees that I think did a very nice job of screening. And even though I appreciate that the van has been taken away and there is now 1 tree put between the sidewalk and the first bay, it's a very different look. And I'm sure you've gone through this a million times as to how else you could put handicap parking, but I, for one, am really disappointed in this new design for that particular area. To me, that the Link building is front and center. The asphalt that leads straight up to the Link building is sort of like the runway to the Link, and that is problematic for me.
All right, thank you, Nia. Abigail, I'm gonna just go around the horn.
So like Nia, I don't have an objection to the story craft room changes. I agree that I think the first design was more elegant, but I understand the reasons for the redesign. I think it's still appropriate under our guidelines. And I appreciate the gesture to the abutters to move it further back from the property line and the tree line. I don't have an objection to the change in the window formation on the west facade. That facade is, those windows are recessed from the street. They were always less visible. I think the change is appropriate under the guidelines. I don't have an objection to the replacement of the interior sash and windows on the Haywood Benjamin house. I appreciate the concerns for the efficiency, the energy efficiency of the building, and as long as the exterior casement is maintained to maintain the historical appearance and integrity of the house, then that's all right. Unlike Nia, I don't struggle with the parking. I simply reject it out of hand. I don't know why it's being reproposed. We went over it, multiple meetings, input from lots of stakeholders. I actually think that the elimination of the parking on site and the transition of the parking, the accessible parking to the street, is exactly what this process is designed to do. We took into consideration community input. We took into consideration HDC input, applicant input, abutter input. We looked at our mandate and our guidelines. We worked collaboratively to eliminate what is a simply modern intrusion on what is an otherwise wonderful open green space. And, you know, at the end of that process, everyone agreed that it was a vast improvement to the project. Even the applicant said, you know, this is an improvement. And so I just simply couldn't vote to approve it. It's a non-starter for me. We've been over that issue. We came to what is a wonderful solution to that issue. And I think the process worked incredibly well. I hold it up as an example of one of our best processes and what we really came to a great resolution to that issue. And I'm simply not willing to go back and reconsider it at this point.
All right, thank you, Abigail. Luis, you are next on my my list of victims. Can you unmute yourself, please, sir? Yep. Can't hear you yet. Nope.
Sure.
There you are.
Okay. Okay, I echo essentially the comments made by Nia and by Abigail. As we all know, one of the problems with this design is that the historical integrity of the Haywood Benjamin house, it's not maintained. And this is a position that has been legitimized by state agencies and by multiple people who are knowledgeable in these issues. So I cannot endorse what is otherwise a substantial improvement over what was initially proposed.
Now, hang on, are we talking about which piece? The Storycraft room?
We're talking about the Storycraft rooms or the changes that are being proposed to the
windows,
to the windows and the whole area where in the right side of the Haywood Benjamin house, if you are standing in front of it from Main Street. That's what I'm referring to.
Okay, so you're objecting to all these proposed changes.
Yeah, well, I'm objecting to the whole structure as a structure. So
no, we're not.
But I have to say that that the if I were to look at the changes strictly in a relative from a relative perspective, then this would be an improvement over what was proposed. But I don't believe that the original proposal or any modification respects the historic integrity of the Haywood Benjamin house.
Okay, but that's,
so I don't believe that it's inappropriate, but that's the reason for my observation.
Okay.
I also echo Nia and Abigail in terms of the parking spots. I think that this is really a major mistake that again, there were long and protracted discussions where the rationale for not having parking spaces there was discussed. And I believe that the applicant had understood that very well and that they agreed with that perspective, but that doesn't seem to be the case. And I don't know exactly what has changed, but I don't believe that this is a correct solution. And finally, you know, Mr. Adams started at the beginning saying that there had been an appeal and that a settlement had been reached. Well, I am not aware of such settlement. I know that I had been personally named in a lawsuit that states that the Historic Districts Commission failed to follow its mandate. And I don't believe that this matter should be discussed or that any decisions should be made until that settlement is made public. And of course, it's made public to the people who are involved with it, such as the member of the Historic Districts Commission. So I suggest that the chair stops the current discussion until this matter is resolved. Thank you.
Okay. I will say, I will interject here and say that is a surprise to me. We had no idea that this lawsuit had been settled. We weren't notified, we weren't told anything. And that is really disappointing that that's like happened outside without letting any of us know, because we are all named personally in that lawsuit. So I know town council is not here. I know that Jane, you are here as a select board member. Is there any news from where you sit? I know I just picked on you and I don't see you muted.
So, Peter, you just invoked my name in the conversation. I'm not sure if you want me to respond.
Well, I'm not exactly sure how to respond either, because I think Luis is making a very good point. I asked this question before this meeting to the town to say, given that there's a pending lawsuit, are we even allowed to talk about this project? Now I understand there's some sort of settlement in place. I mean, this is all news to us tonight. So I'm not sure how to proceed, frankly, either.
May I respond, Mr. Chairman? This is Mark Bobrowski, counsel for the library.
Sure, yeah.
There is a misunderstanding if you think that you were named in your personal capacities as members of the HDC. You were named in your capacity as members. There was no lawsuit against you in any individual way, shape, or form. The plaintiffs in the case, there were two, ended up as one dropped out, and there was a settlement agreement reached between that plaintiff and the HDC, and the library.
Okay.
That resulted in a stipulation of dismissal by all of the parties to the lawsuit, which included the remaining plaintiff, the library, you, the HDC, the ZBA in its separate lawsuit, Johnson Roberts, which was named in both of the lawsuits as well. And those have been filed with the court. Your counsel signed off on those stipulations of dismissal back in March, if I remember correctly. And to the extent that you weren't informed, that was clearly the job of town council to bring you into the loop. But they were involved in the periphery as those settlement discussions ensued. And at the end of the day, we decided we did not need them to help resolve and sign the settlement agreement because it was really something by and between the library and the remaining plaintiff. The terms of the settlement agreement are not subject to disclosure. It is not a public document, and it is not, in fact, by its very terms, we are bound to not disclose the terms of the agreement.
All right. Well, thank you for that clarification.
I hope it helps.
That helped a lot. That's news to us. So, so if I understand it, there's no pending action. The case has been resolved to both parties' satisfaction. So
that's true of both the Zoning Board of Appeals action that was filed by the plaintiffs and the HDC appeal as well.
All right. So I apologize if I lost my cool there a little bit, everybody. Sorry. So I think, Luis, given that, I'm just going to accept your comments and move on to Melinda because...
Can I make just one more comment? Having heard the words from the attorney for the applicant, I think that it would behoove the attorney for the town to confirm that perspective. You see, the matter here, it's a matter of a lawsuit, and the interpretation of it is subject to certain laws. And I think that as a matter of principle, it behooves the applicant, if such settlement has been reached, to make us aware of that so we can sleep well tonight, knowing that we are not named in any lawsuit or we have no responsibility about something that we had nothing to do with. Thank you.
I would be more than happy, Mr. Chairman, to provide to you the public record, which is the stipulation of dismissal that was signed by all lawyers and filed with the Middlesex Superior Court. I have no problem sending that to Heather, and I'll do so the next time I get into the office, more likely over the weekend.
Okay. I frankly, at this point, I'm willing to trust your professional license on the line. And were you going to say something there?
I was just going to offer that I'm happy to Peter, for you and I to consult with Nina at some other point, but it sounds like it's resolved.
Okay. All right. I'm going to just, as Chair Luis, I'm going to say that let's accept the attorney's opinion. It sounds like it's a legitimate fact of the courts. So I'm just going to move on and hear comments from, this isn't going to be resolved tonight anyway. I'd like to hear Melinda and Katharine's comments. And then I think we're going to need a site visit anyway. So let me just pause you for a moment. Let's see. Melinda, do you have any thoughts?
I do.
Mm-hmm.
I have to say that when I opened up the link to look at the plans, I was shocked to see the new plans about the driveway. Absolutely shocked. To even think that we would want a paved driveway which chops up the property between the two buildings. The breadth of pavement that would be required for the cars it's just staggering. We lose all that outdoor space to sit. I think people would be sitting on the lawns. Instead, there's going to be all this hot, heat absorbing pavement. And we spent so much time finding a solution for other parking spots, both in front and in back of the building, that I really, and you say all these changes were modest in your preamble, and I find that disingenuous. I think the first three items are fine, but to throw a curveball at us like this, I'm very disappointed.
Thank you, Melinda. Katharine, I'm looking at you.
I am 100% in agreement with my fellow commissioners. I think the first three amendments and changes are acceptable within the programming and some of the considerations for the abutters, and I have no problem with those three First Amendment changes. However, I absolutely share Nia and Melinda's comments about the parking lot. In fact, I too was extremely shocked to the point where I wasn't even sure I was understanding the materials I was looking at correctly, because it was such a surprise to see those two designs for the parking lot after, to everybody's comments, we had spent so much time working out the design considerations for that area. And I feel, to echo Nia's language, that it absolutely feels like a runway, visually speaking, to the bridging structure. And I think that's a mistake. And I really wish that, all of the deliberations that had led to our former decisions about that area had been kept more intact.
Thank you, Katharine. And really, I echo the commission, and I can only add that I just thought the drawing I was looking at was a mistake. I thought it was an old drawing when I looked at that landscape drawing. So that feels like a big step backwards to me. So I think in any event, now, given what we've all heard from Mr. Bobrowski tonight, we'll need to confirm, per Luis's comments, that we are in fact able to proceed without the specter of a lawsuit hanging over our collective heads. Assuming that is the case, we are going to need a site visit to look at these other changes. Or at least I need a site visit. I don't know, again, this is COVID time, so if we meet as a public site visit, we're going to all have to be standing apart, Heather, correct, with masks?
Yeah, everyone in attendance would need to have a mask on, and
So we're going to need like a microphone and a speaker system. I mean, if people attend from the public, we're all going to be standing like a, it'd be like a rave concert, but everybody's 6 feet apart from one another.
yeah, I think it would probably make more sense to do individual site visits and just make sure whatever you want to view during a site visit is clearly marked.
Okay, and then members of the public are welcome to go as well, correct? To look at the...
That's up to the property owner.
Okay. So I think I would agree, given what we've just said on the previous site visit. So the commissioners would, assuming again, you and I and Jane and everyone confirm for the commission that we're okay to proceed, that on the 16th in the morning, we would have an individual site visit slot of time between 8 and 10 or something. I don't even think we would need anyone from the library there to interpret for us. It's pretty straightforward. I think if it's staked out, well, I guess we would need somebody there, wouldn't we? So anyway, we'd arrange that.
It depends. During the site visit, are you looking at the changes to the story craft room, or is that kind of?
Yep, all of the changes. So the window changes are more just, you can see that's pretty straightforward. You look at the specifications, you look at the window, it's the story craft room and the parking. If that proceeds, we'd have to see that all staked out, etc. So those would be the two things, the reason for the site visit. Correct. Am I off here, commissioners? I'm looking to you to see if that's what I'm proposing. Okay. All right, so does anyone on the commission have any final words of wisdom before we open this up to public comment? I'm just looking at your screens here. Katharine, you unmuted yourself. You okay? Okay. All right, so why don't we go ahead and open it up to public comment? So this is on the amendments. There are 4 amendments to the certificate of appropriateness for the library at 129 Main Street. Is there public comment? Now, I see several people from the public here. If people can raise their hands, can you use the raise hand icon? Or Heather, I think the other thing to do might be to just let everybody turn their video on, and then people could, you know, do this, raise hand.
Just a reminder to the public, if you click on participants at the bottom of your screen, on the right hand side, you should be able to raise hand, or at the bottom, it should give you the raise hand option as well to click. And I don't know if whether you can start video or unmute people to see if anyone has a comment.
I don't see any raised hands, so why don't we do it one step at a time? Why don't we, can people unmute themselves, Heather? Or do you have to allow that?
I am not sure. I'm just gonna hit unmute all.
Okay, so why don't we do it by voice first? I don't see any raised hands in the participants area over here.
So everyone should have the ability to unmute themselves at this point. If you have a public comment, please unmute yourself and speak.
Yeah, why don't we do it that way? Is there anyone who'd like to comment? I only see a couple of people unmuted, but I don't see any, or I don't hear anybody. Ned, is that you? I see you gave us a thumbs up.
Yeah, let me just speak. Can you hear me all right, Peter?
Just the name and address, street address.
Ned Perry, 362 Bedford Street. Oh. You hear me all right?
Yes. Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. I think that the representations have been made about your earlier discussions have not been totally upfront. You had the Disability Commission, Commission on Disability in front of you when you were talking about the parking, off-street parking area. And you accepted their endorsement of the plans with the off-street parking. You then took the off-street parking off the table, and you didn't tell the Commission on Disabilities, but the community continued to believe that the Commission on Disability was in favor of the library expansion. I believe that Sherry and I worked closely with the Commission on Disability, as well as Terry Ackerman, attending meetings, and it was clear to me, I don't know about Sherry, but it was clear to me the Commission on Disability was not in favor of the addition without the off-street parking because of the difficulty of going across Sudbury Road from the parking area on the other side of Sudbury Road. And the treasurer of the library corporation had his door taken off getting out into traffic on Main Street. And he's not disabled. And the disabled individuals in the community are very concerned about that area that you've designated in the in the revised plans that the HDC approved. So I only say that I think the HDC needs to take into effect the total community input, including the Commission on Disability, and take a look at this library proposal from the perspective of the community. The library, the Hayward Benjamin House driveway has been next to the house for over 200 years. I presented to the HDC, and it should be in your files, a picture of the van that is presently driven up to the back door of the library across the lawn. When I was chairman of the library committee, we put the children's wing on. And unfortunately, one of the large granite curb pieces was not reinstalled after the library addition, after the children's wing went on. So the library van has been backing across the lawn. And if the HDC is concerned about the look of the library, for 10 years, the lawn has been driven over by the van. So I think the proposal that you have in front of you was designed to fail. I believe you should have at least 2 hand accessible parking spaces off of Main Street, on the Main Street side for the library. I am pleased that the library took away the library van, so it made it a little smaller. But I think that the parking area could be 2 cars, accessible parking. It could use, if you look on the plans that are in front of you, 2 pages ahead of the runway that you are complaining about, you will see the outline of both the Haywood-Benjamin Library, the Haywood-Benjamin driveway, and what's been used by the library for the van. The handicap parking area covers both of those with the 3 parking spaces. I would hope the commission would get in touch with Jean Goldsberry and have a joint meeting with the Commission on Disability so that you can discuss really the safety features. I think the Library Corporation has done an effort here to make the library accessible to handicapped individuals. But I think it could be a better plan with better screening, 2 cars versus 3. And I hope the commission will take a look at the options here for the safety of the community and the accessibility of the library. I agree entirely with the commission members that the connection is the real problem here, and the architects repeatedly put spring flowering trees in front of it in all the presentations to you so that you wouldn't see it. Intentionally put those trees in it so you wouldn't see it so it could get past. You passed it. Please consider how this library can be made accessible to the community, and particularly the handicapped members of our community who now have to struggle with walkers either getting out of their cars into traffic on Main Street or walkers across Sudbury Road from the handicap parking between the library and the Emerson umbrella. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Ned. Is there other public comment? I'm looking, I see Terry, are you commenting?
Well, I just want to thank Ned for that. I have been at several Commission on Disability meetings.
Terry, would you mind just telling us your address for the record?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm Terry Ackerman. I'm on the select board and I'm the liaison to the Commission on Disabilities.
Thank you.
So I've been to several of their meetings. They're very concerned about safety. They are basically worried about opening the door into traffic on Main Street and having to go across that street in a wheelchair. And so that is what is behind this suggestion to look again at putting the accessible spaces right next to the library. And I do agree, if Peter, if you could talk with Jean, or if you guys could have a joint meeting so that this discussion could be had. I think that would be very useful. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Terry. Other public comment? Okay. Well, I'd like to say, frankly, I apologize. I frankly wasn't as tied into the Committee on Disabilities opinion about this project as perhaps we should have been. And I agree, we need to talk to them about the situation, because frankly, from a utterly neutral perspective, the scheme we're being shown is better for disabled people. There's no question. It's safer, it's closer to the building. I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer. It's just the way it's been. And I know this is partly because of the whole COVID thing. We haven't been meeting in person and all, but all right. So I think to be better coordinated going forward, I'm going to suggest a couple of things. One is that we obviously need a site visit because we're changing the plan that was approved. But I would like to, Terry, would you mind unmuting yourself? The Commission on Disability, do you know if they meet on a particular time of the day of
Yes. Yes, if you give me 1 minute, I'll check my calendar and tell you.
Okay.
They'd be delighted to have you at their next meeting. Let me get that date.
We may not have to solve that tonight, but I think, Heather, I'll work with you to see if we can set up a special meeting, or I'm happy to talk to the chair.
Yeah, we could also invite the chair, someone from the Commission of Disability, to attend the next HDC meeting where this conversation would be continued.
I agree with Ned and Terry. This is a very important issue to discuss as a town. This is something near and dear to my heart as well. So I think we need more context here. So I think in the very short term, again, just to keep things moving forward, we need a site visit on the 16th. Now, I just want to make sure there isn't any other public comment. I don't think there is any. So I'm going to come back to the commission now. Are there any thoughts now that we've heard this commentary about the parking area from the commission, or can we go ahead with a site visit? Any further thoughts from commissioners? I'm just looking at, you can wave at me if you want to talk. Okay, so in order to keep things moving ahead, why don't we, well, I'm going to look for a motion from the commission to continue this application, and I'm going to suggest till the 16th with a site visit that morning by individual commissioners.
Okay, I move that we continue the application of the Concord Free Public Library Corporation at 129 Main Street to amend an existing certificate of appropriateness to our next meeting on July 16th at 7 p.m. With a site visit. Are we doing individual site visits, Heather? Individual site visits that morning between 8 and 10 ballpark.
Okay. Did you second that, Abigail?
Yep.
All right. The motion has been seconded. All in favor, Nia?
Aye.
Abigail?
Aye.
Luis?
Aye.
Melinda?
Aye.
And Catherine?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. And I will say that in the meantime, I will try to, if I don't meet with the Commission on Disability chair, you'll hear more about that between now and the next meeting. In theory, that we may talk about it at that meeting. Okay, well, I think is that all the business on this we were going to discuss?
We have other business.
I was saying on the library, I think we're done.
Yes.
Okay, well, listen, thank you, library team. That's a very nice, complete presentation. And on the 16th, I'm just thinking, John, were you going to say something? I'm just realizing someone from the library should probably be there. I don't know who would be the person in case there are.
I'll make myself available that morning, Peter.
Thank you, Jeff. And Heather, that's okay. Individual commissioners talking to Jeff, asking questions, that's not a violation of public meeting.
As long as you're just asking yes, no, clarifying questions on locations. This week, mark this point on the plan.
Gotcha. Everybody, I assume. So yes, no questions. And Jeff, thank you for being available. All right. So that's it for 129 Main Street this evening. So all folks within that project arena are free to go and enjoy what's left of your evening. So thank you all.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Yeah.
All right, and Heather, we have a little bit more business, yes? This is the StarMet reuse, the site reuse. So has everyone seen that reuse survey for the site over at the StarMet site? Have you seen that application? Was that distributed to the commission? Okay, it's a little, maybe Heather, if I could ask you, I'm not sure why we're being asked for input. It's not a district.
I think they've emailed every town board and commission. So I think if it's something that you don't feel like you want to weigh in on, you don't have to.
Okay, I mean, I have to say, I didn't really pay attention to it, and then I looked at it and I thought, well, I'm not even sure why they're asking us. I appreciate asking, but I would answer as a private citizen. I don't think I would answer for the commission, right? Did anybody else look at the application?
Yeah, I think it's appropriate if people want to answer as private citizens, but I don't think it's appropriate for us to weigh in on it as a commission. It's outside of our purview. It's, it just doesn't.
I mean, unless they're proposing to make it a historic district.
Yeah, if they want to make the StarMet site a historic district, then they should come talk to us. But outside of that, I think it's important that people give their individual feedback because they're clearly looking for it, but not as a commission.
Gotcha.
I agree with Abigail.
Okay, and I sort of
I think Marcia would like to speak about this.
Thank you. Yes, I would. Marcia Rasmussen, Director of Planning and Land Management, and I have been providing staff support to the StarMet committee. And it is simply, we're using every avenue possible to get the word out because we want the feedback as much as we want feedback on what the reuse might look like and how that might proceed. So you don't have to comment as a commission, but we welcome, the committee will welcome your comments and your perspective on the NMI StarMet reuse. It's looking at 10 years down the road. We hope to have a cleaned up site and we want to put it to good use and good purpose, but we would like
Oop, you dropped off there, Marcia, just briefly. Oh, I think we lost Marcia there. But I think I get it. So that was really my only concern is, do we need to respond as a commission with some sort of official statement? It sounds like no. All we could do in our work in this capacity. And frankly, I appreciate the opportunity to give some feedback. It's an exciting, it's a huge project. So. Heck, maybe we should ask them to make it a historic district. We don't have enough to do. Should we just ask for the?
I don't think so.
All right. So
comments are due by July 8th, correct, Marcia?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So thank you, Marcia. And so that gives you all 6 days. If you need the form again, I can email it to you. I'm going to fill it out and get it in by the 8th. Just to give my 2 cents. But again, we don't have to do this as a commission. Okay, I think that's our only other business. We don't have any minutes, Heather? No?
No minutes. I do have them drafted, but we didn't have them on the agenda. So we will put them on next meeting's agenda. For next meeting, we are going to have 2 other business items. We're going to come back around and revisit Jenny Dugan Road and creating a historic district there. And then 21 Thoreau Street, who is part of the outreach for the Main Street expansion, is interested and wants to be added to the Main Street Historic District. So I've invited both of them to attend the next meeting on the 16th to discuss that further. The Jenny Dugan Road folks are interested in doing the site visit again. We had talked about doing a site visit and walking the neighborhood. I let him know that right now the HDC has been conducting individual site visits, but that I could see how the HDC feels about conducting a group site visit, or if you just want to walk that neighborhood prior to the next meeting. I think Marcia has her hand raised again.
I do. There is probably another item that will be coming to you.
You dropped out there, Marcia. Are you going to mention the Concord business, the business partnership discussion about signage?
Is to promote businesses in Concord Center. And there is a provision in your in the act that would allow you to grant this permission for whatever reason. And we're thinking, because we are in a state of emergency and because we are seeing a serious impact to local business, that it might be something that you would be willing to consider. So I'm working with the town manager's office to put that together and for your consideration at your next meeting.
Sorry, Marcia, you dropped out for a minute.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, what would be the permission that you'd want us to grant? That part got garbled.
Many of the businesses would like to install some temporary signage that might not fit with your regular guidelines. Am I falling out again?
Nope, we can hear you now.
Okay, so things like banners, there might be streamers, just some really innovative or creative things that might normally be denied or reconsidered. And I don't know all the realm of what might be proposed, but I would like to work with the businesses to identify what they want to do so that we can put together a package for you to think about.
That would be great. And just so the commission knows, there's been just some correspondence today to Heather and me. So this is all sort of late breaking information, but basically the business districts are trying to drum up business and they'd like us to reconsider some of our processes. So
temporarily
is prepare something to talk about on the 16th. And I think we'll see what everybody's going to ask for. So. But I think we all want businesses in the town centers to not go under. So we totally get it. Okay, thank you, Marcia. So that will be on the next agenda on the 16th. So don't go on vacation. Everybody stay around.
So in terms of the Jenny Dugan Road site visit, does everyone want to plan to walk that neighborhood prior to the next meeting, or do we want to talk about it after we have the discussion with the Jenny Dugan Road folks on the next meeting?
Let's do that. I'd like to sort of get it back in front of the commission for discussion, and then we can go. I mean, I think we've got time, right? The town meeting is.
Yeah, so warrant articles are due. It's generally like January 1st. So we submit them like the end of December.
Right, so I feel like we've got some time here. If that's okay with everybody else. Thank you. All right, so I don't think there's anything else on the agenda, correct, Heather?
Nope, that was all.
All right, any final thoughts from commissioners, or are you ready to, we're almost at 9 o'clock. This is like the old days. Well, if no other business, it's nice to see you all, and I'd look for a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn immediately.
All right, all in favor, and you can just raise your hand this time.
We need a second.
Second, thank you. All in favor, we're adjourned. All right, thank you all, and thank you for attending, and thank you to the public, and Jane.
Cheerio.
Good night.
Good night. Talk soon.